Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Aging Games podcast. I have a very special guest for you guys today. I have Talia Smith here with us, and she's going to share with us her incredible story. And this, guys, will probably be the most important podcast you will ever watch. So you need to make sure you watch to the end for the sake of your health, for your family. If you've ever taken antibiotics, you ever consider taking antibiotics, this is something that everybody has to watch. Talia, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really, really happy to have this opportunity to sit down and chat with you. Um, can we start with your story? What
Yeah,
happened to you?
yeah. So I'll just start a little bit about me before,
Yeah.
because before all of this happened, I was a very active person. I had a more than full-time job, let's say. I worked way too many hours. I worked out every day. I ate extremely healthy. Taking care of my health was very important to me and my husband. But it was also important to me because I was my husband's primary caregiver. So he's a disabled veteran in the Marine Corps and a quadriplegic. So I had to take care of him as well. So in my mind, I always needed to be healthy because I needed to take care of him, right? But we both had that in common anyway, just took very good care of our bodies. So anyway, I'm just, living my normal life, going to work, taking care of my husband. And one day I say, oh, I feel that pain. And if you're a woman and if you've ever had a urinary tract infection before, that's all I need to say. You know exactly what they feel like, but I probably hadn't had one in about a decade, 10 years. So I wasn't someone that had gotten them frequently at all. I just knew that I had one. So I immediately called my doctor right away and I said, I think I have a urinary tract infection. So immediately they wanted to prescribe me an antibiotic and I said, no, 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 no. Because I wasn't one that took medication, so I was very afraid of medication. I just took supplements and stuff because, I worked out and all of that. So I said, no, I'd like to come down and get a urinalysis and a culture, make sure I actually have one. I knew I did, but I knew the importance of a urinalysis and a culture because of my husband. Quadriplegics get a lot of urinary tract infections. So anyway, I went down there and I did that and it came back positive, of course. And they prescribed me ciprofloxacin. And I had heard of that before, thought it was strong, but wasn't really sure because I'm not a doctor. I'd never taken it before. And so my question to the prescriber was, is there anything I need to know about this antibiotic before I take it? Because I'm a little nervous. I don't take medications and I certainly don't take antibiotics. And I was told, no, there's nothing you need to be aware of. This medication is very safe and effective, and we use it all the time for urinary tract infections. Now, being my doctor of 10 years, I trusted her and I proceeded to take my prescription. And even when I read the package, because people will say that, well, didn't you read the package? Yeah, the package was a joke. The package was like, beware of minerals, stay out of sunlight. It didn't have anything that said black box warning or permanent and disabling side effects. It didn't say anything like that. If it did, I wouldn't have taken it. But I thought, plus, it's just an antibiotic for urinary tract infection. So I took it, and on my third dose, so that's like a day and a half later, on my third dose after I took it, it was like right away after I took it, maybe 30, 40 minutes after the third pill, I started feeling full body pain. I'm like, I feel like I have the flu, except I'm not sick. You know that like every joint and muscle is just really tired, like and sore. You just want to go to bed. I thought that's weird. Maybe I'm getting sick all of a sudden, like out of the blue. But then as the day progressed, my symptoms progressed rapidly in that first day. I went from, oh my goodness, I'm having a lot of body pain to I can barely put pressure on my heels to having this thing on my face that was moving. And then I started getting like these electrical zaps in my head. This is all on the same day as the day went on. And I told my husband, like, I don't know what's going on with me. The only thing that's different is I've been taking this antibiotic, but it can't be that. Like an antibiotic can't like do something like that to you, right? I was so naive. I had no clue. So I ended up limping by the end of the night. And by some miracle, I was able to put my husband to bed with the Hoyer lift, the whole 9 yards. I was limping, but in my mind, because I'd always been healthy, not someone that went to the doctors other than my yearly physicals, and was convinced I was invincible, maybe. I thought I was going to go to bed and wake up and I would be fine. But that night, I did not take my fourth pill. I was supposed to take my fourth one that night. I said, I'll just skip it. I'll call the doctor in the morning because something inside me it just doesn't feel right, even though I don't feel like that's it. So the next day, I got up and I attempted to get out of bed and I fell on the floor. And I said, oh my God, oh my God. And I tried to I'm sure you can hear the panic in my voice. Just when I go back and relive it, it was terrifying. And I tried to stand up and I stood up, but I was limping so bad. Like I could barely walk. My hands, it felt like fire coming out of my hands. Like it was so hot and I felt like it was shooting out, and I felt so off that I have to go to the emergency room. So I went to the emergency room and I went in there and I had no idea what was about to happen to me. And I said, listen, I'm so healthy. Look me up in the system. I never come here before, but something really, really bad has happened. Like overnight, I suddenly can't walk. And the emergency room doctor turned around and said to me, and this is the point where my whole life changed. He could have said anything at that moment, except he turned around and said to me, are you taking Cipro? I said, oh my God, yes, why? And he said, calm down. I said, no, how can I calm down for the fact that there's 1,000 medications and you pick out the one that I'm taking? And he's like, well, I see it pretty often that this happens too when people get Achilles heel tendonitis. Do you know what a black box warning is? No. He explained what that was to me. I said, it didn't say black box warning anywhere. So he gave me partial warning. He just told me about Achilles heel tendonitis. I didn't know there were 7 more black box warnings after that, but it was enough for me to know that that is what had caused what was wrong with me. And it was immediately documented as an adverse reaction to a medication. We didn't have any ICD-10 codes at the time for fluoroquinolone. So, and he told me, calm down, relax, you're panicking, go home and take ibuprofen and rest for the next 3 or 4 days. Trust me, you'll be fine. I see this often. I still didn't feel good about it. And I went home and I started taking ibuprofen around the clock. And I started getting worse. And I said, why am I getting worse if this doctor said all I need to do is rest and take ibuprofen for the inflammation and I would get better? But this doctor didn't know, like most doctors don't know, that NSAIDs are contraindicated with fluoroquinolones. So as I was taking those NSAIDs, every single time I took a pill, I was increasing my central nervous system issues that I originally got from the fluoroquinolone. I was just making it worse every single time I took an NSAID. And it was pretty much every 8 hours, like it says that you can take it. And then, the quickest way to tell the story from here on out is that, my decline was so rapid. I mean, in 5 months, I was on hospice. It was just so quick. I developed problems swallowing. My neck immediately was the first thing to go. I could no longer turn my neck. And as I went on, I started, like I say, stiffening up like the Tin Man. Like my limbs were not like moving anymore. It was hard for me to walk. And I became a frequent flyer at the hospitals and at the doctors. This is what I call it, because I went from never going, not even knowing how to navigate this broken medical system, to being there all the time, naively thinking that they were going to fix me, right? They're doctors. You have a problem, they go and fix you. But every time I went and every time I got a diagnostic test, like an X-ray, which is damaging to mitochondria, or an MRI with gadolinium, I mean, I'm seriously have no clue as I'm telling you all of this, right? NSAIDs through the IV for migraines, which they said I had. And this went on for months and months and months until I was eventually so debilitated. I could not eat. I hadn't eaten for 4 weeks. I had not even water. And they told me that I wouldn't survive without water for 4 weeks, but I'm still here telling my story. I lost over 50% of my body weight. I went down to 60 pounds when I was admitted on hospice. And the thing that was so shocking to me is that the medical system is nothing what I thought it was. I thought I had a great doctor. I thought we had a great medical system in the country. And why is that? Because I never needed them for anything. And then the moment I did, I quickly realized that the system is so broken, and it was a huge part of my downfall. I wish that I had not gone to them as much, thinking they were going to help me. Every ailment I felt, I thought they were going to have a cure for, and that's not the case at all. So I eventually got to the point where I was begging for feeding tubes because I didn't know how else to eat. I was having problems swallowing. I was choking on my own saliva. I was having horrible reactions to foods, which is what I now know is called mast cell activation syndrome, but I couldn't even explain why I was having allergic reactions to water. This doesn't even make sense. It's water. There's nothing in water, right?
What kind of reaction? Like what would happen when you drink water?
So the reaction would be that the feeling I would feel like my whole body would hurt, that would come like times 100, to the fact that I couldn't even walk when I would drink water. I would get like blurry vision, double vision. I would start getting my tremors, my shakes worse. I would get hives, rashes, and I'm like, all I'm doing is drinking water. This isn't making sense to me. And so every hospital that I went to, they refused to give me feeding tubes. And I live in Massachusetts, which has some of the best teaching hospitals in the country,
Yeah.
in Boston. And it was just failure after failure after failure. And the last place I went was my last ditch effort. I had already been through them all. And they said, and I was really, really bad at this point. And they said to me, that they were not going to give me a feeding tube. My husband was crying his eyes out. Please save her life. She's going to die if she doesn't eat. And they said, by your labs, we estimate that your organs will start failing in 3 weeks. So because I had my kidney markers were there, my liver markers were there, and it was showing that I was starving. And they said, so come back in 3 weeks, and then we'll give you a feeding tube. And my
What?
husband said, why in 3 weeks when she goes into organ failure? Why can't you help her now? It was always written off like, why can't you just eat or something psychological or whatever? And so I said, you're going to send me home. I'm going to die. Without food or water, I'm going to die. And they said, I know. I'm very sorry. So I went home. This is our medical system in this country. I cannot believe it when I tell back my story. I tell the story sometimes and I think I'm telling it about somebody else because it's so crazy. So I went home on hospice. A priest came and read me my last rites. I knew at a month in of no food or water. I mean, I wasn't even going to the bathroom anymore. I had no bowel sounds or anything, on hospice. When you go to hospice, they come in and they assess you, and they have to believe that you have 6 months or less to live. And so they came in and they said, you have maybe a month or two, but probably not even, considering that you haven't eaten or drank anything in a month. So I thought this is pretty imminent, and I better have the priest come and, read me my last rites with my family and friends. And I say this every time when I'm interviewed. You cannot get any lower in life than that. When you're sitting there and the priest is saying that that's it. And at that point, it had been 5 months of absolute torture, being gaslit by the medical system, not being educated enough myself to know what to do, because I know now that fluoroquinolone toxicity, there is no cure. There is no treatment. It's just like supplements and stuff and modalities that people try, and they may work and they may not work for you. So, I was pretty sure that was it. And then my husband had my phone at this time. I could no longer see. I couldn't even speak. The way I used to speak to my husband is that he would ask me a question and that was yes. And this was no. Yes, no, yes, no. And so he found someone in my Reddit support group and he said, I know you don't want to dox yourself or whatever, since it's Reddit, but my wife sounds exactly like you. And my wife's dying and I'm desperate. Will you call me? And that guy doxed himself. So that was his terminology. And he actually had a phone conversation with my husband. And he said, your wife has mast cell activation from the fluoroquinolone. My husband said, what the heck is that? He said, it doesn't matter what it is right now. This is what you need to get her, or she's going to die. So my husband's, okay, I need to get her chromalin. I need to do this. So he started work, and I'm just laying in bed on hospice with a Foley in, not moving, just I'm having absent seizures constantly throughout the day. So my husband was making these calls to the doctors. Can we get her some sodium cromolyn or H1H2 blockers? And they kind of fought my husband a little bit with some of the stuff. Well, really for a cromolyn. And then my husband said, you just told me those medications are benign. So what's the harm in giving them to her? She's going to die anyway. So then they actually wrote him a prescription. A week, this went on for a week where they would drop a drop of cromolyn in my water. I'd take the teeniest sip until I would choke. And a week later, 1 week later, I was eating an Ensure pudding. A
Wow.
week later, an Ensure pudding because I had had cromolyn, which is a mast cell stabilizer, all week. And then from that point, I realized if I get food in my body, I actually have a chance of survival. So what are we going to do now? We tried baby food, because I couldn't swallow. We tried human food, but I was having reactions to human food. And then I found myself with mast cell activation doctors, not in the Western medical system. Two in particular that really saved my life, that got me on the path to be able to intake food. I mean, today I'm not on hospice. I am on palliative care. I still require 24/7 care for my survival. I still have mast cell very bad. I only eat 5 foods. But when you have none to 5, it seems like a lot, right? So I have those 5 foods, and they're what keeping me alive every day. And I'm honestly here because my husband, because of hospice. Hospice helped save my life truly. And because those few functional medicine doctors at the beginning who believed me and helped me. I wouldn't be there if I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. So that's kind of the gist of it that got me living.
Talia, how old are you?
Oh my God. 46.
So you're a young woman, just for people who can't see how young you are that are listening to this podcast, to be going through this at such a young age
Yeah.
is just absolutely shocking. And the gaslighting from the medical establishment, from the doctors, from the hospitals is absolutely criminal what they did to you.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect word. And I always use this as an opportunity to let people know what I didn't know at the time. And I wish I saw a me on social media before I took a fluoroquinolone, right? You
Yeah.
know, it was about 2 years till I could start speaking again. And my husband said, you have to get on social media. You have to share your story with other people. You can save people's lives. And it took me a long time to get myself emotionally to a place because I knew I looked terrible. I was 70 pounds when I started going on social media, and I knew I was going to have thick skin, or I wasn't going to make it. And I met up with this Floxy fighter group,
Mhm.
and they said, we'd like you to be part of the we writing letters to the FDA campaign, so they know who they are as they're watching this podcast. And I wrote a letter to the FBI. Okay, I
You
wrote a
write
letter.
them too.
I wish I
Yeah.
could. I wrote a letter to the FDA,
Yeah.
but I spoke it on TikTok because I couldn't see at the time. So I was just speaking into my phone, and I don't even know if people know that. I could barely even see the screen. I was just hoping for the best that it came out okay. And I posted that video, and then 6 days later, with help, I posted a video. Bet you're wondering what happened to me, and there I was in the hospital bed. And that video got like 500,000 views. The FDA one got a lot of views. And I got called from the FDA in 6 days. And
Wow.
I said, this is who? Oh my God, I wasn't prepared for this. Luckily, I'm someone that can think quickly on their feet. But, that's when I said, someone cares. If the FDA is calling me because of my video on social media and I have 500,000 views on one video, this is my opportunity to share my story and help save other people. So before we go on, I just want the viewers to know, because I'm always talking about ciprofloxacin. That's the fluoroquinolone that disabled me. But there are other fluoroquinolones that you need to be aware of. Fluoroquinolone is just a class of antibiotics. So there's other name brands in there like Levaquin, Avalox, moxifloxacin. The list goes on and on. You can find it on my website, anywhere I'm related to social media. So don't think if you avoided Cipro, you're
Mhm.
safe. There's other fluoroquinolones you need to be aware of. And the other thing to know is if you to get fluoroquinolone toxicity, which is also known as being floxed, which is really just meaning that we're experiencing the adverse effects of a fluoroquinolone antibiotic, you can get that from all forms of fluoroquinolones. That's IV, pill, injectables, eye drops, and ear drops. And here's the trick,
Oh.
because if you go to the doctors, they will tell you that they don't affect you. But if you look at my posts and you see anybody on social media, they got floxed through one eye drop, one ear drop. So the mechanism of action, whether it's in the ear, in the mouth, or an IV, is the same. So all of you need to be aware that these antibiotics are extremely dangerous. They have 7 black box warnings for a reason, one of which in 2016 is that it should be used as last resort only when no other treatment options are available due to its permanent and disabling side effects. So that's 2016. We're almost 10 years later. So it's blowing my mind that people are still being prescribed this and being disabled and harmed every single day. This warning's been out for so long, and it actually says on the FDA website, we've determined that in many cases, especially for a simple, uncomplicated UTI, the risks do not outweigh the benefits. So if you're someone that's used to taking Cipro or any fluoroquinolone and you like it and you ask for it, you should probably not do that next time you get a urinary tract infection. Because I've heard doctors tell me that too, that patients ask for it. Well, of course they do. They don't know any better. They
Yeah.
just know that the last antibiotic they took helped them. So they're just calling out Cipro or Levaquin or whatever it is again. So it's very important that people know this. And people will say all the time on social media, any medication can harm you. Yeah, I know. Everybody knows that. But this class of antibiotics is so different from any medication, not even antibiotic, because it has the most adverse reactions of any drug on the market. Any drug, like it's fluoroquinolones. So that in and of itself puts it in a totally different class, and like it's so dangerous. So to say that any medication can give you that kind of reaction isn't a fair statement. We're not really comparing apples to apples when you get into it, because if the FDA thought this medication was safe and effective, like my doctor said, there
Yeah.
wouldn't be so many warnings on it. They don't give that many warnings for medications that are safe. So that's my spiel and what's necessary for people to know about fluoroquinolone antibiotics. The one more thing I'll say, I'm sorry,
No, no, no. Go on. I mean,
is that I often tell people when you go to the doctor and you are prescribed an antibiotic and it's a fluoroquinolone, to please ask for an alternative. There usually is always an alternative to the antibiotic to a fluoroquinolone. So, I mean, this is one way that you can save yourself. You get a UTI, they give you, say, Levaquin. Can I please have an antibiotic? I don't want to take a fluoroquinolone. You have every right to take another medication. So, and if you have to take it, you have to take it, but at least you tried. And any doctor can tell through a culture and a urinalysis what antibiotics will be susceptible to your organism. So, for everybody out there, request the urinalysis in a culture. Just do not take an antibiotic from prescription only or over the phone. Please get yourself checked. So that's my spiel to save people from
and what
becoming
about
like me.
people that end up in the hospital and then what they're putting in your IV? You have no control over. You have no idea what they're putting in your IV. They don't check with you first.
Right. So in this case, in which I've spent a lot of time educating people, is if you watch any of my videos on social media, I have a list of things that you can't be taking: NSAIDs, steroids, diflucan, any other fluorinated medications. And if you can get a hold of that information and you're in that medical system, you have the right to refuse any kind of medication that they give you. You have the right to ask them, what are you putting in my arm?
Yeah.
Or tell them right off the bat. That's what I started doing as I learned. I cannot take steroids, NSAIDs. I'm allergic. Like
Mhm.
whatever, just so you'll never
Yeah.
give it to me. Like you have to put these measures in place to protect yourself. I have a medical bracelet that lists off every medication. And then I have
Hmm.
a whole piece of paper that goes with me that says, do not give me any of these medications in case I was unconscious and ended up somewhere without somebody with me. So that is something that people can do. What are you giving me? You know, I don't want that. I want an alternative or whatever it may be, or I don't want treatment at all. You also have that option.
Yeah.
And for the folks that are floxed, to save yourself, I would say get out of the Western medical system as soon as possible. If you have the ability to go to a functional medicine, naturopath, integrative medicine doctor, they're not going to gaslight you and they're probably going to help you a heck of a lot more than a Western medicine doctor would because they don't know what to do. They're not going to help you. And not to say that there is any magic cure, but they'll at least help you, help alleviate symptoms or whatever that may be with a naturopath doctor. And I know people that have been cured or almost fully healed working with those doctors. I unfortunately am not one of them. And I really truly believe it's because I have mast cells so bad. So that's just my individual
So
case.
are
But
are you doing any natural treatments or anything for yourself now?
yeah, I don't so I do like I do some crazy things that I would probably laugh at before I got sick. So I do Rife treatments
Mhm.
because as someone that is so sensitive to any medications, I can't take a lot, right? So I do Rife treatments, which I believe work. You
Yeah,
know, people
absolutely.
laugh at me when I
No,
say
they
that, but
shouldn't laugh at you. I have all the energy devices.
yeah,
Frequency energy healing is definitely the future.
it
Absolutely.
it's made a huge difference in my life. I know it has. And
Yeah.
I've also been doing NAET. I don't know if you know what that is. It's short for Pad Allergy Elimination Technique, and it's basically most Chinese medicine doctors will do this technique, and they may combine it with acupuncture, acupressure, or it's really just like again using energy and muscle testing and these little vials that treat you for allergies. And it sounds crazy. I'm like, she's not even this this practitioner doesn't even touch me. And and when I was first going to her, I was trying to be able to onboard protein because I was 70 pounds. And she said, you know, after a couple treatments, you'll be able to eat chicken. And I'm like, how? You just like putting the vial up and touching the back and, you know, going under a heat lamp.
Yeah.
And after a few treatments, I was eating chicken. I
Wow.
was like, so weird. And then like, but it works. I wish I could explain to the people out there how it works. I just say go do it because it helped me. I really can't explain it. The other thing that I'm a really big advocate for, and I wouldn't say it's natural, but is one of the few things that's helped me are peptides.
Hmm.
And I don't know if that's because they're injectable and they bypass my gut
Hmm.
because most people that are floxed have terrible gut issues,
I bet.
terrible,
Yeah.
and have leaky gut and
Mhm.
SIBO and the whole nine yards. So maybe that's why peptides are more effective for me. Only certain ones because I've had bad reactions to some. But that's another thing that I like to do. I know other people that have tried LDI, low dose immunotherapy, and it's basically if you have an issue with something like a lot of chronically ill people have yeast and candida problems, right? So this little vial you'll take, and it's actually yeast and candida going into your body at very small amounts to try to get your immune system to build up tolerance to it.
Mhm.
So that unfortunately didn't work for me, but I know so many people that it has worked for them. But my big things are Rife, NAET, and peptides. That's my top three. And some supplements, but with mast cell, my body hates supplements. And there's a lot of people that are flocks that take like 30, 40, 50 supplements a day. I wish I was kidding when I said that. And sometimes when they come off a lot of their supplements, they actually feel better. So
Mhm.
who knows what they're doing? Who knows how they're interacting? And they also play in your genetics too. Like one of the most effective treatments for mast cell that's natural is something called quercetin.
Mm.
And I have been so unsuccessful in trying to take quercetin. I want to take something that's natural, right? I've
Mhm.
tried it 10 times, 10 different versions, just to find out that if you have a COMT genetic mutation, you're going to have issues taking quercetin because it pushes COMT. Well, I didn't know I needed to factor in genetics to my supplements too, so you literally have to factor in all of this in your recovery. And unfortunately, you have to be your own doctor because there isn't really one out there. There isn't one that's going to be able to even help with all of it. You might find a Floxed doctor, which there's literally like a handful of them in the world. You might find a mast cell doctor, or oftentimes when people get Floxed, they also have mold, Lyme. We get all these chronic illnesses because our immune system is down. And
Yeah.
so you end up going to 10 different doctors to treat all these things. And I feel like a lot of times the treatments overlap, the people get sicker, and it's so difficult. Once, we all hear the term immune system, right? Just think immune system. You have no idea how important that thing is until it's broken. It literally breaks you. So yeah,
Talia, did you ever go back to your doctor, the one you had entrusted for 10 years? Did you ever speak to her again about what happened to you?
I did. That was unfortunate. By the time I learned about the black box warnings and the one in 2016, last resort only,
Yeah.
I actually printed out the documentation from the FDA, and I brought it to her office. And I was just looking to have a normal conversation with her and saying, um, you really shouldn't be prescribing Cipro as first line to everybody else because this has been out since 2016. When I got Floxed, it was 2021. Still 5 years it's been out.
Yeah.
And she was very unhappy with me. And she told me that she was going to still continue to prescribe that medication. Her office always has. And no one had ever had a reaction like me before. She totally to
Got
me.
it.
And that was hurtful. And it was like, I've trusted you with my life for 10 years. Again, why? She never actually needed to do anything for me until then.
Yeah.
But the fact that a doctor could just brush it off with the FDA documentation right there, don't they feel any duty or any obligation to actually pay attention to that? And they don't have to. They don't have to. When I had that conversation with the FDA, I said, why can doctors willy-nilly prescribe this class of antibiotics and nothing happens to them? What's the point of your black box warnings? So the reality is that they told me they don't have the power to enforce at the state and local level. So they can't force doctors in every single state to make sure they're prescribing fluoroquinolones as last resort. So if you have
But
to
why is
do
it even on the market? It shouldn't even be available. How's it?
exactly. So what they told me to that question was there are a few infections that they don't have alternatives for. And until they get alternatives, it has to remain on the market. Like some pneumonia or pseudomonas or something. Anthrax was one of them. So
Yeah, that
if you,
happens a lot, right? I mean, how
I,
many people die from those kinds of infections compared to how many people are dying from these antibiotics?
correct, correct. There's obviously something bigger happening there
Yeah.
because there's so many failure points along the process. You have the FDA, no one's listening to them. You have the doctors doing whatever the heck they want. People are getting sick. Pharmacists may or may not say something, right? And
Yeah.
then by the time it gets to the patient, boom. There have been all these points where someone could have said something or stopped something, and
And I
it
wonder how many times, I mean, they told you right away when you went to the hospital what was causing your issues, but I wonder how many times they don't do that and they just blame it on something else.
they do. And the unfortunate part in this one, I have to give a little grace to doctors for is because the adverse reactions to fluoroquinolones can show up months to a year later.
Oh, wow.
So not even the person realizes that it's the fluoroquinolone. So they go in, they take a fluoroquinolone, they're okay. Then maybe a month later, they got a steroid injection. And that just set off, what was already going on. And then they start going to the doctors. I'm having these pains. What people usually get diagnosed with is fibromyalgia,
Mhm.
chronic fatigue syndrome.
Yeah.
And they're not telling the doctors about the fluoroquinolone because they're not connecting it.
Yeah, they might
So
not
that's
even
why,
remember that they took something a year ago or months ago, right?
right. So that's
Yeah.
why I say I gotta give the doctors a little grace there, because if they don't even know, they're just like, and even the ones that do know, they're like, what am I gonna do about it? Like one of the conversations when I had the conversation with the FDA, I said, on your packet, it says if you experience an adverse reaction, stop immediately and call your doctor.
Hmm.
So I did. And my doctor said, yes, I believe what happened to you was because of Cipro, but I don't know what to do. And I said that to the FDA. So what's the point of putting that on your label when none of the doctors know what to do? And the FDA said to me, Talia, we don't know what to do when someone gets as sick as you. If you don't know what to do, then I'm going back to what you said. Why is it on the market? It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make sense. You have this bomb that you're giving people and you don't have an antidote to it, and you're just continuing to prescribe it. This is the analogy I bring up all the time. When the COVID vaccines came out, 15 people had blood clots with the Johnson and Johnson vaccine, remember? And it was like, whoa, vaccine on hold. 15 people had blood clots. 15 people, but yet they're still continuing to prescribe this medication, people dying like it, and it doesn't matter. It's I don't get it. I really don't get it.
And in these support groups that you're in, do you find that this is very frequent? Like this happens quite often to other people as well?
Yeah. And not only in the support groups, like there is a 24/7 fluoroquinolone toxicity group on Facebook,
Yeah.
which has like 10,000 people. There's a lot of people in that group.
Wow.
And you'll see how many people like have experienced adverse reactions. But the thing that was eye-opening to me is I've had some videos on social media go viral, like 20 million, 21 million views, 20 million views, whatever. And on those posts, there's 7,000 comments. And that is where you see this happened to me, this happened to me. And it's just one after the other, after the other. So it's literally thousands of people saying that they've negatively been impacted too, just on one of my posts. You know what I mean? So think about all the other places they're sharing their stories and telling, what happened to them. And it's just sad. It's always the same thing. It's like I couldn't walk. A lot of them say they had family members that passed away after taking it, and it's not right. And since I started my advocacy, I've been saying since we're not getting help from the bottom up, from the
Yeah.
from the top down, we have to do
Yeah.
it from the bottom up. We have to do a grassroots effort because whoever it is upstairs is supposed to be paying attention and giving a crap. They don't. So we have to save our own lives if nobody's going to be looking out for us. And I think over the last couple of years, we've done a heck of a job doing that and raising awareness between the ICD-10 codes that went live that actually list fluoroquinolone antibiotics now and adverse effects. Finally, it was one of the few antibiotic classes that didn't have ICD-10 codes, and yet they were the most dangerous. See what I'm saying about this
Yeah.
stuff not making sense? We
Yeah.
have Fluoroquinolone Toxicity Awareness Day, petition for informed consent, like all the stuff that's happening. This, I really do believe this is the loudest that people have ever been, and I think it's because they're fed up. People are tired of being sick and tired of things not changing. So, the way I see it is if anybody cared, somebody would have done something. So they don't. We have to
Absolutely.
do it ourselves.
Absolutely shocking. Talia,
Yeah,
what is your life like now? You say you require 24-hour care.
I do. I like even to do this, it's my aide that dressed me, the hair aide that brushed my hair, put my um iPad up. I have barely any strength. I still can't really walk. I can walk a couple steps with a walker. I can stand for like maybe 5 minutes. I still have my five foods. Like when they put me to bed, I can't even roll over by myself. Once I'm in bed laying flat, I'm stuck there. And it's like I'm trapped every night I go to bed. So I can't move any part of my body when I'm laying down. I don't have the gravity like I do when I'm sitting up. So basically throughout the day, I'm very active with my community. That's probably what I spend most of my day doing. And in between, I have to keep laying down and resting, getting up, doing my thing, laying down, resting. I have to do that all day because I don't have the energy to even sit up straight for a whole day.
And are you at home or are you in a care home?
I'm in an apartment. I'm not at my house, but I'm in an
Okay.
apartment with a caregiver that stays with me, and my husband is at our house.
So
So,
you're not with your husband either.
mm-mm. Well, we're together. We
Yeah,
just don't
but
live together.
and how
Yeah,
is he managing without you?
rough,
Yeah, because this has
very
impacted
rough.
like your whole entire life, your family, everything around
Yeah.
you.
He had to end up getting 24/7 care for himself too, because I used to do it all.
You did it all, yeah.
And, we tell the story all the time how he said to me, if anything ever happens to you, Talia, we're screwed. And I said, whatever happened to me? Come on. I work out, I eat well, nothing's going to happen to me. Famous last words. So
Yeah.
now we have two sets of caregivers, and I only get visits from him. It sucks. And I don't know when I'm going to be able to go home. When I got sick, I had a water leak in my house. The roof leaked, and that's why I'm not there. I know a lot of people think that me and my husband have marriage problems or whatever. That's not the case. I had a water leak, and my husband said, "You need to get her out. She can't be here." Like, we see the mold
Because of
from,
the mold, right?
yep, we see the
Yeah.
mold, and she's already on death's door here. We need to get her out to save her life. Get her out, and we'll fix the house. And she can't be here when we fix the house. She's got to get
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, all the
So he
chemicals.
literally got me out of the house to save my life. But it's been 2 years now, and the house is still there, and he's still there, and I'm still here. It's just the cost of care and selling everything you have to survive hasn't left us the ability to fix our house. So I don't know what we're gonna do, but he said, I just need you to keep living. So we're living separate for now. It's been really hard.
I can imagine. I'm so sorry for everything that you had to go through. And, being a young couple and you still have so many years ahead of you, that you were looking forward to beautiful, happy years with plans and dreams and everything. And to have it all crushed is absolutely heartbreaking. I'm so sorry for everything that you're going through.
Thank you. I mean, it was in an instant. It was so fast. I never thought anything like this could be possible. And I thought after my husband's accident, he almost didn't survive either. And I thought, we survived that,
Yeah.
we can survive anything, but nothing would ever happen to us again. Like, that was so traumatic. Like, people don't go through crazy things like that multiple times in their life. Wrong again. So I'm living proof, trying to tell everybody out there that thinks you're invincible, that something can't happen to you. When you see the word rare and you say, well, that won't happen to me because it's rare, trust me, anything can happen to anyone at any time. Nobody is immune. And that's the important part of my message in this story is don't think you're somehow going to get out of it.
Yeah.
Like, I speak with people on a regular basis that saw the warnings, and because it said rare, they took it, and
Yeah.
now they're floxed. And they told me they didn't think that it would affect them. And it actually says on the insert, like, 60 or over for Achilles heel tendonitis. But the amount of people that get that are young, the numbers are astronomical. I don't know why they put that 60 or over on there, because it makes young people feel like they don't need to heed the warnings, but they do. And, I just like people to hear my story. And no matter what you're going through, this is what I'm going through. I'm floxed, but other people are going through other things,
Yeah.
cancer, ME/CFS, like whatever it is that never give up. You never know what's going to happen. I would bet everything I own that I wasn't going to be able to be here and have this conversation with you, but here I am. You never know what the future is going to bring. And you often hear me say on social media, until there's nothing left. And that's what I do. I just keep going because I'm praying and hoping that something comes along the way that allows me to turn a corner. I'm not even asking to be able to go back and work out again at the gym. I'm
Yeah.
just asking to have a quality of life, something that lets me turn the corner and do that. Maybe be able to sleep without somebody here, you know, get out of bed by myself, roll over. These are things that people wouldn't even think twice about, right? You just go to bed, you roll over. You don't think it's a big deal. But, this is what I try to tell people is to not give up, no matter how dark it is. And the only thing that's really kept me going is my family. And I say, all the time, keep one foot in the light, because people that are going through a dark situation, regardless of what it is, again, for me, that's Cipro, the big C.
Yeah.
um, it's a very dark and lonely place, especially when you're gaslit. And let's be honest, people don't like sick people. I've lost a lot of friends and family members that don't talk to me anymore because they don't want to deal with it. And so it's very dark and lonely. And I tell everybody that's okay, but keep one foot in the light, so when you're ready to come back, you'll be able you'll be able to get back to the light. And that's what I did in my darkest of moments. I had one foot sticking out in that light, knowing that someday I was going to return there, because the first 2 years, when you're answering someone like this, you don't think you're going to make it.
No.
But I did.
And
And
it's so amazing that you are now devoting your life to helping others and for bringing awareness to this whole situation, which is so important. And I admire you so much for your strength and your resilience and the heart and soul that you put into your work. You are truly amazing.
thank you.
Talia, please tell our listeners how they can get in contact with you, how they can find you, how they can support you, where they can find more information in case, they're thinking this could be their issue or it could be affecting somebody that they love.
So the first place you can go is to thisisfloxed.com. That's my website. You can message me through there too, but I also have a link tree, which is on all my social media bios. So if you see me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, that'll have my link tree. It's Finding Vulneraries. There's a reason why I have that name.
Yeah.
But once you get to my link tree, you can literally find anything: interviews, a contact form, how to report your reaction to MedWatch. Like, those are the best two ways to get to me, through my website and through Linktree. If you don't already know me on social media,
Yeah.
those are the best places.
I will make sure to link everything below so people can easily
Yeah,
find you. Talia, thank you so much again from the bottom of my heart. And I wish you and your husband nothing but the best for the future. And
thank you.
always keep that foot in the light. It's so
That's right.
important.
That's right.
Always.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.